Hi everyone, in this screencast I'm going to explain the portfolio assignment for creating a learning material. There are, as I usually have been doing, an option for people who work with young children and people who don't work with young children currently. So I'm going to start by just giving you an overview of what it is, what I expect you to do if you work with children and if you don't work with children, and then give you some examples from previous students' submissions, the kind of thing that I'm looking for so that you have a better sense of that. So before you get started, obviously I want you to read Chapter 8 on the learning environment and view the items in the goodie bag. There are some especially good ones that will help you prepare for this assignment. The video materials to support learning, the Head Start video, my classroom environment screencast, and the article by Elizabeth Prescott in the goodie bag will be especially useful to you as you to help you understand what kinds of things we want to look for when choosing quality materials. So usually engaging environments include classroom displays, furniture arrangement, materials selection. This particular thing is going to focus on the materials selection and creation that we are using. So you're going to create a material or put together materials that will support learning in a specific domain. So you're looking at social, emotional, physical, cognitive, language, and creative areas. You can do this to promote a specific purpose, and I've given you a link here to story bags or boxes. I want you to go ahead and click on that when you find this in the content. Start here, course information, assignments, professional portfolio, and then you'll find the specific instructions. If you want to do collections of loose parts, this is a great way to provide materials for children, and I've got links. That will take you to some examples of that. Really think about the potential for child engagement. How are you going to best engage children? What's going to draw them in and want them to stay with these materials and have it be a meaningful learning experience? So option one, if you currently work with young children, I want you to not only put together the materials, but then introduce those materials to your children in the classroom and observe how it is used. So you can demonstrate uses, but I want you to keep this activity child-directed. In other words, I really want your role to be that of an observer. And I don't want you taking anecdotal records and all of that. What I mean is I just want you to watch the children. I don't want you to instruct or facilitate a directed group time. Just watch what they do with the materials. So then when you submit your submission, I want a title of the materials. So I want a catchy title. I want you to tell me the age range you planned these materials for, the developmental domain or domains that are addressed by your materials. And then I want you to take, during your watching of them using these materials, I want you to take several photographs of a child. You need to really make sure you avoid using the child's face unless you have explicit written parental permission to use their child's image for coursework. Most of you, that will be no, and rather than go out and get that permission, which takes time, just take the photos without the child's face involved. You'll see what I mean in the examples in a moment. Then I want you in writing to describe the purpose of this material. Why'd you pick it? Link it back to developmentally appropriate practice and the information that you learned from the textbook and the goodie bag. What's the relevance of this? I want to know what you thought the relevance was of this activity or materials. And then I want you to reflect. I want you to describe how the children responded, how you felt about how it went. Look at the questions in the box here to help you frame your thinking. Okay, so option two, if you do not work with young children, then I want you to create your material or put your material together. I want you to set it up in a display that you think will be most engaging for children and take several pictures of the materials and display. You're going to do just the same thing in your submission that the people who are working with young children did in terms of providing a catchy title, the age range the materials are for, the domains that are addressed. You're going to, again, include photos, several photos of how you're displaying the materials, how you might introduce them to children. And then you also are going to describe the purpose and provide a written reflection instead of explaining what the children did, because you aren't able to implement this actually. Describe how you expect children might use the materials. So here's some examples. I have to make a statement first about this. When I asked students to complete this activity last semester, they did not have to follow the exact format that you're having. So you don't see the creative title, you don't see the age range, you don't see the purpose. I am asking you to do that because after reading through these last time, I realized that I really needed to include those. So keeping that in mind, that this is not the exact format that I want, I just want you to see the types of activities that earned professional scores last semester. This was one of a teacher that does work with the children. She decided to enhance a learning center for children ages 3 to 5 after seeing that they love the song Going on a Bear Hunt. So she decided to go ahead and set up a dramatic play area of like sort of a dollhouse style miniature world of materials and props that help the children to act out the story. So she set it up on a long rectangular table. She has some fake grass and some real grass in a Ziploc bag. Probably don't want Ziplocs with 3-year-olds because licensing will be upset with that. However, she has real grass and fake grass, and that's the key part there. There's blue construction paper for water, for a river, brown construction paper to represent mud, and all of these are elements that are in the song and / story. And then there's this white, there's a couple of trees and leaves and twigs, these little fake trees that you can buy at any craft store. And then a bag of powdered sugar for snow, and then a cave that she found from an old toy, and a toy bear. And so there are some kids here too, in a little house, and all of these are props that go into the story. So she took pictures of the children using them. She described how she observed they wanted to act it out from the words from the book, and others made up their own version. So she saw children using it in different ways. She also decided that she could add more to this in the future and act it out using puppets and other things to help sustain their interest in the story. Okay, now here is an example of a student who did not work with young children at the time. This is a collection of loose parts. She said, I was inspired by natural elements you might find along a riverbank, and included a few things you wouldn't normally find in nature. So there's some things that are natural. So there's driftwood, different sizes of driftwood. There's some river stones. Some had some paintings with symbols on it, and some plain. The raffia, which is that sort of straw-like looking craft material. There's some green string, measuring spoons, paint brushes, blue colored rice, and some wild rice, and some lavender buds in there. There's some controversy about using food in the sensory table, especially in populations of children where food is scarce. So I just want you to keep that in mind as you see what happens here in this activity, in these materials. So she describes how the used parts might be used. She really describes that open-ended process quite well. She describes what she expected children to do. So she sees them mixing the materials together, dumping them, burying them, stacking them, and maybe making up stories and structures or games with them depending on their age. This is all based on development. She says it would be displayed ideally in a large, wide tub, or think about a sensory table, and she would want them to remain open for a long time and have groups of children come around here. So she kind of set up a display here of something that is very beautiful and would definitely entice me to come over and check it out. So you can see how she chose the materials, she described them to me, she gave these nice photos of all the materials, and then she put them into a display that would entice children to come. So she also talked about strategies she might use while this activity is happening to try to get them thinking more. So she's thinking for younger children, she might give a challenge to, maybe who can stack, who can make them balance, who can sort them in different ways, or who can make a design or pictures. For older children, she thought maybe a little symbolic play, so a story using creating a world that represented the scene of a story, a familiar story, or that they could use the materials to create games. So you see the ideas are really endless when we use these things in an open-ended kind of way. So she's kind of shown how she might set these things up if she were the child. So these are two examples of different ways that materials were used to either implement in the classroom or not. Very quickly here, I'm going to point out this was a teacher in a classroom who did take photos of the children. So the display was to have some gourds and magnifying glasses and different things that could be used for non-standard measurement of these things. And what was neat about this submission is she really described exactly what the kids did. So upon the arrival of the 4-year-old class, I heard, "Are these real?" And then the kids came over and really started describing it. "It's bumpy." And then she just went on to describe all the different ways the children were using the materials. And in this material, it's a fraction puzzle. So there are different sizes of laminated paper, the same color for the same size, and they all stack within this larger rectangle. So this was a student who was not currently working with children, and was showing all the different ways that she might challenge children to mathematically start to think about these shapes in relation to each other. So a lot of fractioning and a lot of suggestion there. So just thinking about these different ways that these materials could be created or compiled. The last little bit here, and hopefully you've made it to the end of this video. This is the rubric that you'll be graded upon. So notice that, again, I'm looking at, have you picked materials that are developmentally appropriate? Are you providing multiple quality photos that really tell us how the material would be displayed and used, or was displayed and used? Are you providing a detailed description of the purpose with clear connections to best practices? And is your written reflection detailed and thoughtful description about how the high quality materials impact learning and development?